So today we're going to talk about the Stokes basket. In this first video, we're going to go over the equipment that we're going to use along with some of the ratings for the equipment. So all this is going to be found on the driver's side of the truck, right next to the aerial and what we call the coffin box. So up there, we're going to find our actual Stokes basket. You're also going to find a bag of rope, it's what we call our life safety rope. You're going to find this black bag. Inside the black bag, that's where a lot of the important stuff is at. So inside the black bag, you're going to have a couple carabiners. We're going to have a swivel. We have an 8 plate, or what some people call a rescue 8. We have our bar rack, also known as a ladder rack. We got 2 different pieces of webbing. One's going to be a 20-foot section of webbing. One's going to be a 40-foot section of webbing. The uses on them depend on where you're going to use it in the system, which we're going to go over in the second video. We're also going to have what we call the bridle. This is what's actually going to attach to our anchor points, and then it's also going to attach directly to the Stokes basket. So one point I wanted to hit on our rigging before we go to the next video is some of the weight ratings. All this stuff is going to have a weight rating of 2,000 pounds plus, anywhere up to 13,000 pounds, depending on which piece of the rigging we're going to have. The reason why I wanted to point that out is because the limiting factor when we do the system is not necessarily going to be our rigging. Actually, 9 times out of 10, the limiting factor when you're doing any type of rope system or rigging system is going to be our anchor point. So our anchor points are going to be 2 hooks underneath the bucket here, each one rated at 500 pounds. So keep that in mind when you're rigging the system, that this equipment is very strong. Your limiting factor is going to be your anchors here. So we'll go over, we're going to go over the actual rigging of the system next. All right, so in the second video, we're going to go over the first part of the Stokes basket process and how we set that up. So today I have with me firefighter Bonte. He's going to use our 20-foot section of webbing, and that's what we're going to use to tie to our 2 anchors, which are located underneath the basket. You want to start showing them?
Yep.
And I'll just kind of talk through it. So, like I said in the last video, each anchor is rated at 500 pounds apiece. Together, we have a 1,000-pound weight rating, which kind of coincides with the with our weight rating for our actual bucket. So it goes hand in hand, makes it a little easier for us. So what he's doing right now, I'm just going to walk you through it. He's taking the webbing, running it through both anchor points, and then at the bottom, he's going to tie what we call a water knot. Basically what a water knot is, it's an overhand knot, just a basic overhand knot with webbing, and it's a follow through. So very similar to what we do your follow through figure 8s. You're going to tie the original knot first, and then after that, you're just going to follow through with the other side. So here we have the finished water knot. As you can see, it's basically just an overhand follow through, and you got your ears on either side. No need to tie safety on those. It's a very secure knot, and once you actually load the system, this is going to tighten down. This thing ain't coming apart. So what firefighter Bonte is going to do next is, what we want to do is offset the knot. You don't want the knot to ever end up where the carabiner's at and resting on the carabiner. So what he's doing, he's pulling one side of the rope down so that we can offset where the knot's at. From there, you take the top, pull it down, and you're actually going to put a twist in just that top rope. And I'll tell you the importance of that in a second. From there, your carabiner is going to go on, and that right there is going to secure what our initial part of the system is. So the importance of putting this the twist in the system, in the event that one of these anchors fails, say it's this anchor right here, instead of the rope sliding through and everything falling out of the system, the way this is set up, if this breaks right here, the whole system is going to swing over. Yes, and the way this is set up, it is going to drop roughly 4 feet, so you're going to shock the system a little bit, but it's still going to catch on the other anchor. And that's what the importance of having that, that twist in is. From here, what we have is our swivel. So we're going to put the swivel on. And then with all of our carabiners, if it has a lock, this one right here is an auto-locking one. There's no twist to it, just simply auto-locking. But if it does have a twist lock to it, you want to make sure you actually secure that lock down. And then you have your swivel, and that's the first part of the setup right there. Just touching on one more thing when it comes to the carabiners. So just a little nomenclature on the carabiner itself. This right here is what we call our gate. So you have your gate, and then your actual lock. Your lock would be the mechanism right here where it locks. So remember this, gate up, lock to the load. That's important because the load is going to be here at the bottom wherever our patient's at. So you want the locking portion or the lock of the carabiner facing down towards the load. So just keep that in mind anytime you're using carabiners, because that same concept is going to apply once we go to the actual Stokes basket. So from here, we'll get into the second part. So like I said before, we have your swivel. Swivel's going to go on, and then from there, we have our bridle system. So your swivel's on. Next thing that's going to go on is your bridle. So see what happened there? This one actually has a twist lock. Self-locking, but it's a twist to unlock. So we have your gate and your lock. Your lock's up. We want your lock to the load. So we're actually going to rotate that. Now your lock is down. And this is the base part of the system. From here, all we're going to end up doing is attaching to the Stokes basket, which we'll show you here in a second. All right, so now that we have the main part of the Stokes basket system hooked up, we're going to show you how you actually hook it up to the basket. It's a very simple process. So we have 4 sections of our bridle system right here. Carabiners, these ones are going to be a twist lock, so it's a little different. Same concept, gate up, lock to the load. So you got your one side there. And do the same thing to the other side. Gate up, lock to the load. And that's how it should look. I do want to go over one point though, and show what not to do when it comes to these carabiners. So one thing you don't want to do, see how this one right here, you can see how it's on the inside of the basket. What you don't want to do is you don't want to come from the back side and load it this way. The problem with this is when you actually load the system, you're going to put a side load on the carabiner, which actually weakens the whole system. And that is definitely a no-no, and one thing we don't want to do here. That's a safety issue. So the right way is to be coming from the inside. That way when you load it, your carabiner is taking the load the way it's supposed to. The other thing I want to touch on, so your green cords here, this is what we call a Prusix cord. It's very versatile knot and piece of equipment that we use in rigging. This one right here, the purpose that we're going to use it for, on a normal system, this is not going to carry any load. These are there in case we need to make adjustments. What are those adjustments? So you can have a patient that is vomiting. You don't want to be lowering the patient that's vomiting on their back, and then you're going to have issues with airway, and then it's just going to make the patient worse. So a way that you can use a system is, depending on which side you want them to go, you would actually pull on one side, and you're going to have to pull some resistance off the Stokes basket when you do this, but you're going to pull some off, and what that will do is as we tighten up these, you can see how now your main line has slack on it. It's putting the load on your Prusix cord, but what it's going to do is take your Stokes basket from a level position, and it's going to tilt it one way or the other. The same concept applies if you have a patient that we need to put in Trendelenburg, or for whatever reason we need to tilt feet up or feet down. You would just take the opposite end. So if you wanted the feet to go up, you would take that side where the feet are at, and you'd pull those, which is going to pull the feet up. So that's one of the benefits of having this bridle system already hooked up. It's a very customizable system depending on who our patient is and what we need it for. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to show you one of the variations of the system. The first one we showed you, that's just a basic setup where there's no vertical adjustments that need to be made. So what we're going to use here, we're going to use an 8-plate. We're going to make use of our orange life safety rope. What we're going to do, so we have our normal webbing for an anchor. You're still going to put your twist in it. That doesn't change. Using a carabiner, coming right through. So you're still capturing that concept of if one fails, the other is going to capture it. From there, tying a double loop figure 8. It's going to be hooked on. Remember, gate up, lock to the load. This is a self-locking. There's no swivel to it, so you don't have to worry about actually screwing it down. So that's what we have right here. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to grab our 8-plate, or the Rescue 8, as some people call it. So to use this, what you end up doing, you put a bite in your rope, go through the big eye, and then wrap it around the base of it. See what that's going to do here? And to show you what it's going to allow you to do, I'll bring it up a little bit just to show you. So if you load the system, what this allows you to do is now take your point from here, and say you had a large parapet wall, you needed an extra 5 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is, you're going to add the system on. So if we need to add some distance, now we can add whatever distance we need and do it this way. This gives us an adjustment point. And then from there, we're going to lock it off. So to lock these off, what you end up doing is you come across and you lock it down. And same thing, you wrap around it again, lock it down. And the last time, it's easier when the system's a little bit loaded, and I'll show you that here in a second. Make another loop, you go through, and then you wrap it around either side. And then when you pull on that, that's going to lock that system down. Now over here, we have our Stokes basket. Same bridle system, same way we had it hooked up before. No changes there. You're going to put through right there. Remember, same concept. Is your gate up, locked to the load. So we got to rotate that around. And this, what that allows you to do now, you can pull on this system, and that is completely locked off. This is not going to give, it's not going to go anywhere, but this allowed us to take our system now and adjust it roughly another 5 feet from the bottom of the truck. And this all goes back, something I probably should have touched on before we got into tying these systems. When it comes to Stokes basket, using the parapet, any type of system that we're going to use, it comes to pre-planning. You need to think about what you're going to do when you're up there before you even get up there, because then that allows us to know we're going to need the extra 5 feet so we can tie this off ahead of time. You don't want to have to mess with this up on a roof if you don't have to, because just depending on certain circumstances, you might not have the reach to actually get to this. So if you pre-tie it up ahead of time, it's going to save you a lot of hassle in the long run. Same thing as a parapet, which we'll go over that in another video. It's really important that we set up the systems on the ground. It's much safer and it's more efficient, that when we get up and it's time to work, we don't have to worry about that. So this is just one of the other variations, and that's using the 8 plate.